everything that pertains to the president almost pertains to you as a spokesman. You find all the abuses, you find all the stone throwing, you find all the missiles thrown in one's direction. So it's a hot seat. But you, like a duck learns to, when you throw water at a duck, it shrugs it off. It just flows away from his body. That's the kind of attitude you must have if you do this kind of assignment. If anyone has chosen not to say any positive thing about President Buhari, he has a right to it. But those who know that this is a president who has come and who has made a difference in the life of this country. All those who write those negative things in the media don't know that I don't read them. I'm reading newspapers like this and I see a column with my name there, negative, with all kinds of foul language. Once I see that that's the direction, I just flip to the next page. I don't give them the satisfaction of reading them. Yes, it's work in progress. For instance, the GDP for last year, the result just came out. 3.4% is the highest GDP the country has recorded since 2014. That's progress. That's progress. And that progress will continue till May 29 next year. And the president will hand over to another president who will continue the work. I've always loved the simple life and I intend to remain that way. Just keep it simple. That's who I am. Simple. Yes, keep it simple. Okay, if I want, I've lived in this house for 6 going to 7 years. If I want to make it a luxury house, that when you come, you see luxury everywhere, I can do it. But this is my lifestyle, simple. Just to know that he's a good man, he's a kind man, he's a man that loves this country. And I pray that his tenure will not have ended before some Nigerians have the opportunity to appreciate him.
Today in Nigeria, somewhere in the Federal Capital Territory, I'm meeting a man, a very special man, and an enigmatic leader, a man of impeccable achievement, a man of impeccable character, a man who has contributed his own quota to the body of journalism and even to the body of public relations. This interview is not easy to come by. We've been chasing him for the past 6 months because of his schedule, very terrific one. Well, I'm very lucky to be in front of the great one, Mr. Femi Adesina, the Presidential Spokesman to the 15th President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, West Africa, somewhere in his house in Asokoro, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, today, Wednesday, 23rd, year 2022. It's an honor being with him today. And first and foremost, let's quickly go into your person, sir. In the last couple of months, we've been trying to reach out to you. I mean, how, looking at yourself since since you came into this good job, I mean, managing the image of the president, and not just the president of a country, the largest populous country in the world. What would you say have changed in the last 6 years doing this job? How has this changed you, sir, as a person, as a leader? We used to know you as a newsroom leader. You have raised a lot of boys. I mean, but finding yourself working with a man that is always on the beck and call of world leaders, you've always been, I mean, invited for one occasion or the other. How has that changed you? And looking at it close to government.
No, I'll say essentially the Femi Adesina of 7 years ago is still the same Femi Adesina of today.
You've changed.
No, well, they have a right to their opinion, but me as a person know that I remain the same person. The only thing that I can say has changed is that I know better how government functions now. From outside, you couldn't understand too many things about government, but having been inside, you then have a better perspective of how decisions are taken and how government reaches certain conclusions. But in terms of the person, Femi Adesina, the journalist, it remains the same. Outside government, I was involved in news processing for readers.
Yes, sir.
But in government, I'm involved in news as a generator of content for the media. I generate content which the media uses. So, in a way, I'm still involved in the news business. So, essentially, I would say not much has changed about Femi Adesina.
Not much has changed about the man, Femi Adesina. How busy is your schedule? I mean, when your predecessor, your predecessor left office, or is it your predecessor, Mr. Ruben Abati, Dr. Ruben Abati, let's call him that, he said his phone was so busy, but few days to leaving the office, every phone just went down, the phone just went docile. So, but how busy is the man sitting on that hot seat now?
Very, very busy. In fact, I would say it's been the busiest part of my life. I had been in the media for about 30 years before I came to serve in government. I've gone through all the rungs of the ladder, from a reporter to a line editor to an editor to executive director to managing director. I have passed through all the relevant positions in journalism. Being a journalist is a busy life, but then being in government as a spokesman is a lot busier. It's a lot busier because there are things that you have to be on top of. You have to be on top of anything that pertains to your principal. You can't afford to be caught napping. Anything that affects your principal, you should be sensitive to it, alive to it, so that you respond or you give clarifications or you defend. So it's a very busy thing. But one good part of it is that President Buhari is a very organized man. So because he's organized, you know when he's done for the day, and you can also close. When he will have night events, you know, and you know you will close late. He's not the kind of president that will close and you retire to a drinking session. That will never happen with President Buhari. Once he retires, he goes home, he has his dinner, he sees some visitors, and then he goes to bed. So that makes our life to be more ordered than if he were a different kind of person. You know, there are some people who unnecessarily are workaholics. They work to deep into the night, 2, 3 a.m. President Buhari is methodical. He does his things when he should do them. And you'll find that in that case, he doesn't exert unnecessary pressure on himself. His schedule is very busy. And as long as he is very busy, his aides too are busy. Because until the president closes, you can close. Until he retires for the night, you can't say, well, the day is over. Because you may need to be summoned to do one thing or the other. But by and large, in the midst of all the business, there is also order.
I want to ask you this very funny question. How hot is the seat of the spokesman or the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and one of the stars of the African Union, I mean President Muhammadu Buhari? How hot is that seat? Is it hot?
Very, very, very. Because everything that pertains to the president almost pertains to you as a spokesman. You find all the abuses, you find all the stone throwing, you find all the missiles thrown in one direction. So it's a hot seat. But you, like a duck learns to, when you throw water at a duck, it shrugs it off. It just flows away from his body. That's the kind of attitude you must have if you do this kind of assignment. If you take everything to heart, you'll be a perpetually unhappy person. So you must learn to forget and close your eyes to a lot of things.
I mean, before coming to government, sir, with total honor, you are one of the most respected journalists in Nigeria. Not just journalists, respected media leader. I mean, I remember you as the MD of The Sun. In those days, we used to go to Apapa to come and see you. You have a couch in your office. You're always sleeping in the office. You rarely go home, maybe twice in a week and all that. And apart from that, that helped you to become eventually the president of the Guild of Editors. I remember you went to Kano. Sometimes you go and the opera was everywhere. There was a lot of happiness. There was a lot of even modern columnists were writing to appraise your leadership trait and all that. With what you are now, 6 years later, I want to ask you with total honor, do you think you still enjoy that goodwill?
I believe so, because I still move around and I see the way I'm received. In fact, all those who post negative things on social media, I'll call them social media tigers. When I go out, I ask myself, but I don't see these social media tigers, because everywhere I go, you need to see how I'm received. You need to see how I'm appreciated. You need to see how people come to meet me and say, thank you for the work you're doing. And that is around the country. Around the country. When I meet people, I see the way they vibrate towards me, and it's all positive. So I think all those who do those negative things hide under the anonymity of social media to do those things.
But how do you handle, I mean, strong criticism when people criticize you in a very hard way and you look at it from all point of view and you say, okay, maybe they are right or they are wrong, but how do you handle them?
I just ignore. I've learned to ignore. In fact, all those who write those negative things in the media don't know that I don't read them. I'm reading newspapers like this and I see a column with my name there, negative, with all kinds of foul language. Once I see that that's the direct, I just flip to the next page. I don't give them the satisfaction of reading them. I can mention them. Back page columnists, inside page columnists who thought they had heard Femi Adesina, they won't know that Femi Adesina didn't read it.
So, I mean, looking at them now as, I mean, a man of God, if you see all these people face to face, will you say you can afford to forgive them?
I meet a lot of them. When I meet them, I greet them. I greet them very well. Because one thing that Christianity teaches us is never to keep malice. Never to keep malice. So all those who have written those bad things, one, because I didn't read them, so I couldn't even hold them in my heart. But if I meet them, because I know they wrote those things that I didn't read, I don't hold it against them. I don't hold. And some do it out of malice, some do it out of envy, some do it out of ignorance. So So they do it for many different reasons.
Let me also ask you this, that it appears that, because I look at most of the projects that Mr. President have done, I can see that some of these projects cut across the country. I mean, from the Lagos-Ibadan Standard Gauge Railway, which is one of the most biggest breakthrough in the last 30 years. I mean, people are going back to rail. I remember when I was young, we were living in Tunuwada, in the northern part of the country, and my mom used to go back to Ile-Ife, her place, and we would go to a rail line. I would see her enter the train and she would go. Those memories live longer. And until recently, when President Buhari came to Lagos, I think that was 6 months ago, to launch a rail line. Then we look at the 273 Itapiwari Standard Gauge Rail, which was 33 years old project that was, I mean, completed by President Buhari. Then we look at the Abuja Rail project, which was completed in 2018. I mean, that's 3 years ago. Then the Kano-Maradi Standard Gauge Rail is going on now. It's just you know, something that is going to connect from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, the narrow gauge rail, then Ibadan, Kano rail, everything. It's like there is always something somewhere, and not even to talk down on the second Niger bridge. But why do you think that a lot of people feel that the president is a president of one section? Does that appear to you that a lot of people don't understand your principle?
Though some have deliberately refused to understand them. They have closed their minds, and they say no one is as blind as those who deliberately refuse to see. They have their eyes, but they refuse to see. They are as blind as bats. Some have their hearing, but they refuse to hear. They are the worst deaf and dumb people. So, if anyone has chosen not to say any positive thing about President Buhari, he has a right to it. But those who know that this is a president who has come and who has made a difference in the life of this country. He said a couple of days back that if he hadn't prioritized infrastructure and built Lagos-Ibadan Rail and built Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, that people will possibly be trekking from Lagos to Ibadan now.
Yes, I heard that.
Yes. Yeah. So, it has made a difference in the life of this country. Last Christmas, the day before Christmas, a friend was traveling to his town in the east. He called me about 6-7 p.m. and said, we have been on this second Niger bridge, or on this Niger bridge rather, for 6 hours. 6 hours. 6 hours. He was complaining and moaning and belly aching and groaning, and I just told him, I said, just bear it for this year. By this time next year, it will not happen like that on Niger Bridge, because the second Niger Bridge will have come on stream and we will just be driving through. Those who are positive in that part of the country will never forget President Buhari. Look at the local Owoto Bridge that links Nasarawa with the eastern part of the country. Those who use that bridge say it has cut travel time from 7 hours to 2 hours.
Can you imagine?
7 hours to 2 hours. See the Bodo-Beni Bridge that is being built.
Yes.
That was a project that had been in the blueprint for 42 years. Nobody had the confidence to touch that project.
42 years.
42 years. It's been done now, and most likely it will finish in the lifetime of the administration. So anybody that knows the truth, that sees what is happening in the country, will know that this is a president that has come to make a difference. Yes, we have challenges in the area of security. So what those people want to do is to make it seem as if the only thing happening in the country is insecurity. Yes, there is insecurity, but that's not the only thing happening in this country. There are a lot of positive things. And just as those positive achievements are there, security will also become a positive achievement before the administration leaves, because the president is determined to crack the security situation.
I want to ask you this very critical question, because we're going to go to the people's question. I know a lot of people want me to ask some questions about the cost of living and all that, but I want to say that I appreciate the language, the body language of the president, especially concerning the fraud in the religion industry. I mean, the religious sector. The president appears to have allowed some reform to take on itself. It's not somebody that want to witch hunt anybody. But people want us to ask that what is happening to KAMA, that is the Company and Allied Matters Act, that aim to regularize leadership of churches and NGOs, especially when you look at the level of alleged fraud in churches and things that we're hearing in the media. You as a man of God, let me just put it that way, a lot of people knew you as a very gentleman or a deacon of one of the great church, that is the First Square Church. How do you feel that you're going to leave the office and won't actualize KAMA? Is there anything to make it work so that...
There's no problem with KAMA. KAMA has been signed into law and is active. But KAMA was in no way targeted at the church. No. KAMA was just a law that needed to be reviewed. I think it was reviewed almost 40 years after the first law came into being. So it was not targeted at the church, it's just targeted at businesses so that they can be properly regulated. It was not targeted at the church. Any church that feels it was targeted at them just maybe need to review their operations. So KAMA was not targeted at the church.
So churches that have the fear that it's targeted at them should review.
Yes.
Maybe look at the nitty-gritty.
Yes, and do things in a better way.
Then let's come to the issue of commodities. A lot of people are complaining that food is expensive and all that. Of course, security is part of the reason because people feel. But when the ordinary people complain that Gary has become so expensive and all that, how do you handle this kind of situation? And is there anything that you think government can do to regulate prices to make life easy? In Lagos now, they say the house want to do something, stop landlord. You have a situation where landlord just wake up in the morning and they just put some amount of money. A house that was built in 1985, the landlord come and tell you that it's collecting 450 for 2-bedroom. That the things are hard and a lot of things going on affecting ordinary people. And we know that President Buhari is the people's president. How do you think government can live? Because we just have 1 year now.
Yes, it's work in progress. For instance, the GDP for last year, the result just came out. 3.4% is the highest GDP the country has recorded since 2014. That's progress. That's progress. And that progress will continue till May 29 next year. And the president will hand over to another president who will continue the work. So government is a continuum. No single government will ever solve all the problems in the country. It's not possible. A government will do its part, do its best, and hand over to another government who will also do its part, and it goes on and on like that. So inflation, for instance,
yes, sir.
Inflation reduced for 8 consecutive months in this country. 8 consecutive months. And then after that, it started rising again. When it reduced for 8 months, did you hear people commend it? They didn't talk about it.
Yes, sir.
So that is the way Nigeria is. And this issue of food prices is not just in Nigeria. It's not. It's a global issue. Yes, global issue. Even in America, food prices are an issue. In most parts of the world, food prices are issues. So Nigeria has its own share of it, but government will continue to work at it. It's work in progress. Government will continue to see how best to alleviate the lives of the people.
Let me ask you that, anytime you travel, how do you see people in diaspora rate the president? What do you notice from the body language of people over there and the charisma of the president himself? Do you notice anything?
Yes, the president most times when we travel meets with Nigerians in diaspora.
Okay.
They hold like a town hall meeting. You can see that Nigerians abroad are proud of their president. They are proud of their president. They wish to meet him. They wish to relate with him. They wish to talk with him. And the president himself enjoys meeting with Nigerians in diaspora because he uses the opportunity to tell them to live according to the rules of their hosts. They will tell them, you are here as an ambassador of Nigeria. If you do well, we are happy. But if you break the laws of the land of your host, we will not support you. So it's always a good thing to meet with Nigerians abroad.
I want to ask that, how do you think, what is the most important thing especially, I'm afraid that you are leaving office in 2023, but what is the most important thing you would like to be remembered for after leaving the office?
It's just that I contributed my quota to national development. I came to serve my country, and I did it to the best of my ability. Nobody, like I said, can solve all the nation's problems, but that we did our part. If out of the thousands of journalists in Nigeria, I have been singled out to come and serve the president of my country, I think I'm privileged, and I will always appreciate that privilege I was given to serve my country.
Before I round up, there are a few other questions I want to ask. How have you been able to handle, what can I call it, the challenges of limelight? I mean, I'm sure that because of your position, you will have been seduced by women and some other things. Have you been able to, keep your head low in the last 6 years? Have you know any scandal about maybe you have a second wife or you have something? Have you been able to handle that pressure? I mean, somebody that is always, your name is always being mentioned either in news bulletins, on television, you have been seen around the president, either in pictures or in motion picture and all that. How have you been able to handle the pressure from, seductory pressure?
Well, temptation is not a sin. Yielding to temptation is. Temptations will always come, wherever you are in life. Before I came to serve in government, I faced temptations. But not yielding to temptation is the most important thing.
Not yielding?
Yes.
Not falling?
Not falling. There is nobody in this life who will not be tempted one way or the other. The intensity of it differs from person to person, depending on the office you hold. Don't forget, I've been editor of 2 national newspapers. I was editor of National Concord. I was editor of The Sun. I became MD editor-in-chief of The Sun. When I was leaving The Sun, I left close to 500 staff there. And I can say confidently that when those staff were being employed, I was instrumental to the employment of close to 3/4 of them passed through me. But not once would you hear that I abused trust, because a lot of these employees were women, they were ladies. I could have said because I was central to their recruitment, then I began to fiddle with them. No. If you have things that guide your life, and in my case, my life is guided by the word of God. So, as much as possible, when temptations come, you can always say no. The Bible says that the grace of God that leads to salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us to deny ungodliness. So you will need to deny ungodliness because it will come. The onus is on you to deny it.
This is something very deep, because I can't imagine in those days we used to go out, we journalists would go out to, maybe we're in Freetown or we're in Port Harcourt or we're in Ghana, and so people will say, oh, I can't sleep in this beautiful hotel, Lala is Shomo, you know. So you have slept in some of the best hotels in the world. You're not sure what's
If you live your life that way, you will enjoy yourself. You will enjoy yourself. I think one of the best ways to approach life is to know that you will never be able to sleep with all the women in a city. Not to talk of the women in one country. Not to talk of women in different countries. And not to talk of women in all over the world. So, what are you looking for? Godliness with contentment is great gain. Just be contented with your station in life at all times.
In fact, I'm surprised that I came to your home for the first time in Abuja. I've been meeting in the office, but today they said because your schedule, you have more than 8 appointments, you couldn't So they have to direct us home, and I can see that there's no even flashy rug. The rug is even almost dirty. You can see they just normal. The curtains, sir. Is that who you are? I mean, I've seen lots of luxuries around. Some big cars, even your garden. I just saw they were just scraping. One man was doing something there. Everything was just humble. So is that who you are still? Because I remember in those days in the sun, you are, I mean, the workaholic. So I used to keep in that same stride. And why have you not just become big? I mean, you use Shane and I mean, be frivolous with what God has done for you, sir.
Well, I have always loved the simple life. I've always loved the simple life, and I intend to remain that way. Just keep it simple. That's who I am. Simple. Yes, keep it simple. If I want, I've lived in this house for 6 going to 7 years. If I want to make it a luxury house, that when you come, you see luxury everywhere, I can do it. But this is my lifestyle, simple.
Your lifestyle?
Yes.
I can't believe this. It's shocking. Sir, let me ask you this question. How do you feel when you hear about things in the society, young people cutting people's head to do charm, and some young men using their mother in the name of joining the courts to become successful, become rich, and a lot of them Yahoo. I know the kind of war I fought in my own area, chasing some young people out with their parents, supporting them. How did you feel with your kind of, I was at the burial of your mom many years ago, and I heard a lot of things they said about her, how she caned all of you, and your dad, the kind of caning, the kind of beating they gave you. How do you feel now? Because this is a very big issue in Nigeria. The youth appears to have lost it, sir.
Yes, it's a value system. A value system comes from the kind of upbringing you have in the home, in society, in school, in churches, in mosques. Our value system is corroded. And once you have a corroded value system, it will reflect in the kind of lives that people live. If you are taught that honesty is the best policy, like my father used to tell us, honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy.
Then you won't suddenly overnight begin to steal, begin to defraud, begin to misappropriate, or begin to do things that will give you quick money. No. So we must return to a society where the value system is one that teaches righteousness, that teaches purity, that teaches the virtues of life. So if people are brought up to value virtues, they won't suddenly go bad. Yes, because how you are brought up affects your life eventually.
How you are brought up, the background.
Yes, affects your life.
I mean, after all you have seen in government over the years, I mean, we are going to 8 years now as the presidential spokesman. What do you think is the best suggestion you can give to Nigerians to get them to the promised land, especially individually and collectively? I mean, with what you see, because at the end of the day, you are going back to the society after this high seat. So what do you think is the best advice I can give to them, seeing it at close range?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm out of the society despite this assignment I'm doing. I'm still part of society. I still move around, I see people, I still go to Lagos where I've always lived, and when I finish in Abuja, God's grace, I'm back in Lagos. So I will just advise people to please cooperate more with government so that we can get the kind of country we deserve, of the kind of country we desire. A lot of people think that when you oppose government, that is when you are somebody. No, you don't have to oppose for the sake of opposition. I see a lot of that. People just oppose for opposition's sake. No, you get a lot more from your government when you encourage them and when you team up with them to build the kind of country we desire.
Will you ever encourage any of your children to go into politics?
If they want. If they want.
What the politicians are doing around you now.
No, if they want. Me, I will never be a partisan politician in terms of contesting for anything, not even for councillorship.
But if they drag you in, that you are the next person we want, and they are ready to sponsor and to promote you,
when it happens,
yes, he's a honest man, some trade in him, I would think he can do this XYZ.
It happened with President Buhari. He didn't have what it took to be a president in terms of finances. But people backed him up, and he's almost concluding his second term in office. Yes, it happens. But if you ask me the kind of lifestyle I like, quiet. The one where you fly below the radar. Because you see, I'm in the eye of the public now, but that's not the lifestyle I like. I like a quiet lifestyle.
But even in those days, your name, you are a gentle, easygoing man, but your name is a popular name. So I want to ask you that, how huge is that name, Femi Adesina?
Well, that question is best answered by other people. Because I am the Femi Adesina, I will not be able to assess myself. I would rather leave that to other people to assess.
And I want to ask that, how true is it that it is only when righteous rule that a country can only know success? What is your stand in this, and who actually is a righteous man?
A righteous man is the person that does what is right at all times. When you do what is right, you are righteous. And if a righteous man rules, even the Bible says when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. So, what attracted me to the Buhari or Sibari ticket in 2014 when they were contesting for the first time, I told myself, this is a combination of two righteous people, two honest people, two people of integrity. And I'm glad that running towards the second term of the administration, they have remained that way. Righteous, people of integrity, honest people. I'm glad they have remained that way.
I'm going to ask you a critical question, but let me ask you this. I'm afraid 2023 is coming. Are you not afraid of successors? I mean, if you have two people that have not been found to have built mansion in any city in Nigeria after 8 years running the country, or have not been found to have bought properties in any part of the country, or are not frivolous with cash, what do you think is the best strategy to keep that legacy going?
It's the people. It's the people. The people deserve the kind of government they're voting. If people open their eyes and vote crooks and vote dishonest people, then they will reap the reward of their action. But if they say this is the kind of people we want, never again will crooks rule us, never again will dishonest people rule us, and they go and vote that way, then there will be a continuation of honesty and integrity in government.
What's the worst news you ever had about the worst gist you ever had about yourself?
No, I don't bother.
I say, what is the worst you ever had?
I don't bother. I don't bother. No matter what anybody says.
Even if they say anything?
No, it doesn't move me. I don't bother. Since I know that that is not me. I'll tell you, my daughter, she's long graduated now, but when I came into government, she was in year 3 in the university. And because that's the generation that use social media, and so she sees all the rubbish that envious and malicious people post. One day she called me and was almost crying, "Daddy, all these things, all this." I said, but that is not you. And I told her, "Sure, you know it's not me." Then I'm happy. You know it's not me, and you have testified that that is not you. So let all those who are writing those negative things continue. It's not me, so it doesn't bother me.
Is it Obi said, "Ọ̀rọ̀ mi kọ́ rárá, ló ń péjọ sọ."
It's true.
Then now say, "Àdúrà fáwọn tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ wa lẹ́yìn." Àdúrà fáwọn tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ wa lẹ́yìn.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people want to know that living here after this seat, I want to ask you again, are you still going back to the newsroom?
Yes, by the grace of God. When I left in 2015, I left on a leave of absence.
Leave of absence?
Yes, so I still have my job at the Sun newspapers. I'll return by the grace of God. But you see, the publisher was so magnanimous. When I was leaving in 2015 as MD, he gave me a letter and said, when you come back, you will not come back as MD, you will come back as vice chairman. So I have a job waiting for me as vice chairman of the Sun newspaper.
And you're proud to see shine in the sun.
Oh, by the grace of God, by the grace of God, all things being equal, I will likely return.
Do you know there's one funny thing? When you are leaving the Sun, a lot of my colleagues there, some of them were crying.
Yes.
And I wonder what happened that day. They said it's like if a father is going there and losing you. Even when some of us are feeling that you are going into a higher office, higher privilege, higher earnings, but people were crying. So why did they were crying?
You needed to see. The day I was leaving, I held a meeting with the management. By the time I rounded up that meeting, I stood up, they all started crying. They all started crying. The women came to embrace me, and when eventually I went downstairs, they followed me. When I entered my car and I waved to them like this, they all started crying again. And you know that since that day, I think it was June 6, 2015, I've never been to the Sun. I've never stepped into the place. The next I will go to the Sun by the grace of God when I leave government. I deliberately did not go there because there are sitting MDs and I don't want to cause a distraction to them. I can imagine that if I enter the Sun, work will stop. People will flock around me. So I have deliberately stayed away from the place for 7 years, and I don't hope to go there till I finish in government.
Let me bring this to your notice, and this is dear to me. It's not by force, but it's dear to me. The legendary, the man who trained all of you, that legendary twin brother, Uncle Mike Awoyinfa, and the lady Baigwe. I see them as an industry, I see them as an institution.
Yes.
And every time I wake up in the morning, I say, why can't Nigeria grow up one day and give these people a title, maybe OFR, MFR? These are people who have paid their dues, raised a lot of great people, like the Femi Adesinas of this world, Eric Osage's of this world, Luis Odions of this world, Daily Mowadus of this world, all of them. Because I have this fear that before you give those kind of titles, people have to pay, they have to do all this in the past regime. And when the regime that appreciates integrity, is there anything, I mean, to honor people like Uncle Mike Awoyinfa when he's still alive now?
Yes, he will be 70, July 23rd this year. And we that passed through him, we are already putting some things together to honor him with on that day. By the grace of God, we will celebrate Mike Awoyinfa. We will celebrate him. It's sad that his twin brother, Dingba Igwe, is gone, but we will always remember him for good. The Bible says that sweet is the memory of the righteous. We always remember Dingba Igwe, and we will be glad to celebrate Mike Awoyinfa when he turns 70 in July.
That's going to be a very honorary occasion, and we are going to be proud to also cover it and to celebrate, because it's an institution, it's somebody that we draw a lot of knowledge from. But before I run on, let me go back to your mom and your dad. When she passed away many years ago, we never knew you were going to come to this position.
No.
How did you feel the first day you resumed your office in Asuro and you knew that your mother was not there, and you know that this woman has been guiding you, giving you all the beautiful cane when you are young, telling you that you're going to be great in life and that you should grow with righteousness, with honesty and all that? How will you feel and how will you define that? Because I was at Liberia and I heard what a lot of people said about her.
Yeah, it was Dr. Femi Adesina, the AFDP president now, who first verbalized that thing. When I was promoted deputy managing director of the Sun, he congratulated me. When I won election as President Nigerian Guild of Editors, he congratulated me. When I became MD, he congratulated me. When by the time I came into government, my mother had passed away. When he was congratulating me, he said, I wished your mother had stayed to see you in this position. So I never forget that thing he said. My mother, I thank God that she lived long enough to see her children succeed. She died at 75, but I already was President Nigerian Guild of Editors and Deputy Managing Director of The Sun by the time she died. So she saw enough of what God was doing in my life. 2 of her children had become professors. One already was a medical consultant. So she saw a lot of the successes of her children. Our father had died earlier. He died in 1995. He was 70. We were still growing that time as professionals. We were in the early days of our professional growth. But at least by the time our father died, out of his 7 children, only 1 was still in the university. 6 had graduated. Only 1? Our last born was the only one still in the university by the time he died. So we are thankful to God that they lived long enough to see their children succeed and to eat the fruit of their labor.
But what kind of parents were they? I mean, who was the mean among them?
Very, very strict parents. My father was a school principal. My mother was a classroom teacher. And when you grow up under 2 teachers, you can imagine. You can imagine what it was. I meet the old students of my father, who was principal at St. Charles Grammar School. So when I meet some of his students, they say, your father almost beat the hell out of us. And you know, he ran the school the same way as he ran the home. He really, really was strict. Our mother was softer, but she too was strict in her own way. But definitely when our father dealt with us, we could always run to our mother. But both of them were very strict. And I'm glad that we had the opportunity to express our appreciations to them, the way they brought us up before they died.
Looking at today now, what do you think the parents of today could benefit, could inherit, or could learn from parents of your age?
Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yes. Parents should learn to discipline their children. It doesn't mean you don't love them. Show them love, but bring them up with discipline. With discipline. With discipline. It's very important.
Don't spare the rod.
Don't spare the rod. Don't spare the rod. This generation children can say, Mommy, don't be silly. Daddy, don't be silly. Say that to my parents and you are a Ghana.
You see those
So parents should learn to love their children, but bring them up in discipline and love.
Your own family, how are they handling the fact that Daddy is always in Abuja? I mean, how are they handling it?
Fine.
Madam.
Well, of course, whenever she's on leave, annual leave, she comes to spend it with me here in Abuja. But before COVID, I used to go to Lagos like twice in a month. 2 weekends in a month I'll go to Abuja.
But that is still too small.
We can't compare it with being with the family full time. But the advantage I had was that by the time I was coming to Abuja, my son was already a pilot. He had finished in the School of Aviation. My daughter was already in 3rd year in the university. So they were not young that you could move them to Abuja again. So that was why my wife too stayed back in Lagos so that she could keep an eye on things there. If the family was younger, I would have brought them to be with myself.
Let me ask you this question before you now run up. There is this perception, and I want you to correct it. The people of the Southwest are Yoruba people.
Yes.
Have the perception that the president is their enemy. And I'm sure you're in this country, you've seen the agitation. They say they want to have their own nation, they want to have Ududua. Not to talk about even the people of the East. What do you think these people don't know about your principal, President Buhari? Do you think they are having a misconception, or because of the appointment that they say he has in his government? What do you think is the problem, especially the people, the Yoruba people? I
don't think the majority of Yoruba people are like that. Neither majority of Southeast Easterners. If you conduct a referendum, you will find that Yorubas want to stay in Nigeria. If you conduct a referendum, you will find out that Easterners want to stay in Nigeria. So all those whipping up the sentiment of separatism are just doing it as a tiny clique. They are a minority. And I would say they are doing that because they just think that President Buhari is against them. President Buhari is against nobody. It's against nobody. It's for all Nigerians. I remember that when Dr. Alex Ekweme was ill. Yes, he was ill. The president arranged that he would flown abroad. And when he died, he was given a state burial. After that, we were in Federal Executive Council meeting, and Dr. Chris Ngigi was now thanking the president and applauding him for all that he did for Dr. Alex Ekweme. And the president said, no, I did what I should do. He was a vice president of this country. And there are certain things sitting, former presidents and vice presidents are entitled to. I gave it to him. So that's President Buhari for you, fair-minded to all. So those who have chosen to misunderstand them, the onus is on them to open their minds and seek to understand the man. They have been unfair to him, but that has not stopped him from doing what he should do for the country.
Recently, you became so mad when the president called our Nigerian footballers to play with Tunisia, and there was a call to encourage them. And some people said it's because they failed, it was a bad luck call. Why do you think people have this perception that, oh, and do you think, because I read the response that even if he has not called them and they failed, they would have said
he didn't call them.
So what happened?
Head or tail, you never win with some people. Head or tail, you never win with some people. So the best thing is to ignore them. They don't know. In that write-up I did, yes, I gave instances of top football clubs in the world and top national teams that lost woefully. Brazil hosted, I think, 2014 World Cup. Germany beat them, I think, 7-1 or 7-0. And they were the host. And they are the best footballing club nation in the world. So all those who are saying those things are ignorant. Losing is part of football. Winning is good, but losing at times is a reality. As the last question, what do you think the church? What do you think the role of the church should be? The political class appears to have failed, but when you wake up in the morning and you hear about a police cop that's supposed to be a role model, and you hear him in scandal of maybe drug, whatever, or mingling with the wrong guys in the society, and you also wake up and you hear about people doing ritual. Somebody say that he eats human being or he use people to do money and all that. What do you think the church should do? Do you think that we've lost? Because when I was young, we were in a CSC, University Center, there in K2, and there was strict upbringing from Sunday school teachers, not just our parents alone. But today now, you look at a church that is talking about building cathedrals, projects, and all the rest. As a deacon, as a journalist, as a presidential spokesman, as an image maker of a man, a puritanic man like President Buhari, what is your fear for the society? Do you think that this is a very fearful signal? I like that film, Shawuride. I think it was Hakim Mishola.
Yes, played the role.
Yes. And there is this place where one of the lead actors was singing.
Yes.
I think that applies to the church today. They don't understand. You find that in the vanguard of those opposed to President Buhari, the church is there. The church
I agree, sir.
is there. So see leaders, I hear them speak.
They speak boldly.
They don't understand. They don't understand. There are good ones who understand and who are neutral and who are doing it right. I can always talk of Pastor Kumuyi any day. Any day. Balanced man of God who knows that the government has to be upheld in prayer. I can talk of my own organization, the First Square, the leadership. Not some of the pastors. Some of the pastors have also gone into that era of being in opposition to the government because they think it's a Muslim, it's a Fulani man, so we should not support him. They will understand one day. So
tomorrow have a perception, a judgment for them?
No, not judgment. It's just that they will understand better. And I'm sure they will regret that we opposed this man for no reason. When we could have supported him to do more for the country.
When I first met you in Aso Rock in 2016, there was this song we sang. One J Ajeyo.
One
and that means you will eat, you will be satisfied, and you will even pack some.
When I saw the pyramid, the other day,
yes,
that's someone who wants to
find. Yes.
I didn't go to JJ.
Things are looking up in Nigeria. Things are looking up. Things are looking up. Some people may complain now, some people may play politics, but things are looking up. For instance, if we didn't have that huge investment in rice,
yes, sir.
Look at COVID time, when all international borders were closed. You couldn't import anything.
Yes.
If we didn't have our own rice, where would Nigerians have been eating? So, we have every cause to thank God. Venezuela is a country that has oil like Nigeria.
Yeah.
But at a point, they were crossing the border to look for food.
Under Hugo Chavez,
yes.
There was a crisis.
Yes. They were crossing the border to look for food. It didn't happen to Nigeria because President Buhari had invested hugely in agriculture.
What other thing do you want the people to know about Mr. President? What other thing? A lot of people watching you abroad.
Just to know that he's a good man. He's a kind man. He's a man that loves this country. And I pray that his tenure will not have ended before some Nigerians have the opportunity to appreciate him. A lot of people appreciate him now, but those who don't appreciate him, I hope their eyes will open before the man finishes and retires to his country home.
What's your greatest fear about 2023? Because my own fear is that these people should not give it to criminal.
No, I have no fear. There is a resilience about Nigeria. There is a resilience. That resilience will work for us. We will get a good man to lead us. The crook will not lead this country again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I want to thank you for this time. It has been so fantastic, so enlightening. It's like talking to a professor inside a political class, talking to Mr. Femi Adesina. And we want to thank him because it's not easy to come by. He's a very busy person. Today, we have to make several calls before his aide allows us to come to the house. And please, you can watch other videos. If you watch any of this video, kindly share and just take the lesson out of this encounter. Try to understand that things are looking up better. No matter how angry you are, understand that at the end of the day, the fullness of time, there will be reason to appreciate the government. So when we meet him another time, by the grace of God, please keep sharing the truth. Let the truth lead. Thank you. God bless you. Goodbye.